So let's look at these sentences from chapter 12. Practice and review. Vos nobis de voluptatibus adolescentiae tum scripsistis. First last. The verb is last. Scripsistis, vos, which you know matches the verb. In other words, it's plural and it's second person. You, scripsistis. What does this comes from? Scripsistis comes from the word scribo, scribere, scripsi, scriptum, and hopefully you can recognize that this SCRI, this P, only occurs here in the third principal part. So we are in the perfect system, which means we are either the present perfect, the pluperfect, or the future perfect, and because istis is the present perfect, this is the second person plural, present perfect active indicative. You have written. Vos is the nominative, plural, masculine or feminine, we don't know, but you all have written. You all have written, and when you write, you often write to somebody. This explains the dative, plural, masculine. You have written to us, de voluptatibus adolescentiae, about the desires. Adolescentiae is genitive, plural, masculine, feminine, of youth, and tum equals at that time, or then. So at that time, you wrote to us about the desires of youth. Number 2. Rationes alterius filiae heri non fuerunt eidem. Fuerunt, what is that from? The verb here is fuerunt. It is the sum esse fui, futurum. And so you can see here, this is the third principal part. This means we're in the perfect system, and this is the ending isti, it, imis, istis, erunt. So it is the ending for the third person plural present perfect, third person plural present perfect, active indicative. And this is your subject, and this is an adjective modifying the subject. The reasons have been the same. Or in this case, you're going to see, I think it's appropriate to use the simple past tense. The reasons were the same. The reasons, filiae, of the daughter, genitive, singular, feminine. And what do we do with alterius? This is one of those unus nauta adjectives. And so this is also genitives. The reasons of the other daughter. Yesterday, adverb. Non fuerant were not the same. She had different reasons yesterday. I don't know the situation here, but the reasons of the other daughter yesterday were not the same. Different story today. Number 3. Nemo in hanc viam ex utra porta fugirat. So Nemo, finding Nemo, in hanc viam ex utra porta fugirat. So there's the subject verb. Nemo, there was some fleeing going on, fugirat, and who is involved in it? Nemo. But when did the fugirat happen? The verb is fugio, fugere, fugi, and I believe it's fugitum. But this erat ending indicates the pluperfect, third, singular, pluperfect, active indicative. Nobody had fled. The pluperfect equals had. Nobody had fled. In plus the accusative, singular feminine, and hanc modifies it. Nobody had fled onto this road. In plus the accusative equals into or onto. Ex utra porta, out of either gate. So, I don't know, I've been here the whole time. Nobody had fled onto this road from either gate. Number 4. Illi autem adnos cum medica eius nuper venerunt. Illi venerunt. Those guys venerunt. It comes from venio, venire, veni, ventum. And that erunt is e, isti, it, imis, istis, erunt. As an aside, now's the time many of you are thinking, oh my gosh, I wish I'd memorized all 4 principal parts of the verb, because it would be very handy if I knew immediately the 3rd principal part without having to think about it. That's correct. Go back and study those. So those guys came, just the 3rd person, plural, present perfect, active indicative. Those guys, moreover, or however, adnos to us, cum medica eius, with his doctor, recently. It's just the adverb means recently. Moreover, or however, those guys came to us with his doctor. Good, we needed to see his doctor. Number 5. Ili adolescentes adnos propter amicitiam saepe veniebant. So, ili the adolescentes veniebanted. This is your imperfect. And you know it's the imperfect because that BA is a sure sign of that. They used to come. 3rd person plural, imperfect. Active indicative. So, those youths used to come to us, adnos, propter amicitiam. Propter just means, it's a good word, it's a great word to know, because of. Propter just means cause of, very, very common. Cause of friendship. Not that they wanted anything, not to do some work on the house, but those young kids used to come to us, or often, saepe, often. Those young kids often used to come to us just because of friendship. Number 6. Eundem timorem, nec in isto consule, nec inimico eos, sensimus. Now, hopefully you recognize this em is accusative, singular masculine, eundem modifies it. That same fear, and so that's the direct object. So we have to go to the verb, the sensimus, to get the subject. We felt. Okay, and let me address that. Sentio, sentire, sensi, sensum. This is the 3rd principal part, locked in. Stone cold lead pipe lock for some form of the perfect. We don't know if it's the present perfect, the pluperfect, or the future perfect, but when you see that 3rd principal part, it's a lock. It's one of those 3. And that's it. We sensed, and so this is just your isti, it, imus, istis, erunt. 1st person plural, present perfect, active indicative, and I believe in this case, we have sensed, that's fine, or we sensed. Again, lots of times the simple past tense can be used for the perfect system. I encourage you to start off with the have sensed, just to get used to it. But sometimes the simple past is fine. We have sensed the same fear. Neck means neither nor, so you can just break those off. Neck equals neither nor. And generally, the Romans are not going to put things outside of that neither nor. That neck is going to introduce a group of words, and the second neck is going to introduce a group of words. And you can treat them separately if it's helpful. Don't get all confused. Don't go crazy. I know I say many, many, many times, word order doesn't matter in Latin. However, they are very, very consistent in word groupings. And when you see this neck, you can be reasonably assured, not quite a stone cold lead pipe lock, like that 3rd principal part I said before, but beyond reasonably assured that those words are going to be grouped together. And as a result, you can see I've put parentheses around them. So, neither in that consul, nor in his friend. We sensed the same fear, neither in that consul, nor in his friend. Again, I don't know what's going on in this case. Sometimes, like Scrubs and JD, I have to think of a scenario in my head for the sentence to make sense. This case I'm lost. If you can come up with a scenario, more power to you. Great. I've just accepted the grammar of the sentence in this case. We have felt the same fear, neither in that consul nor in his friend. Number 7. Post paucas horas Caesar etiam capit. After a few, let me analyze this first. Post paucas horas. Post will take those that accusative, and it just means after a few hours. I read it through in Latin, but sometimes you're getting to the point where you just recognize it after a few hours. Move on. What happened? Caesar took Asia. I'm hoping you understand all this grammar. I'm hoping the grammar of this sentence is feeling a little natural to you. I hope that you can look at Asiam and recognize it as it is accusative singular feminine. And capit is now new third person singular present perfect active indicative. And capit comes from capio, capere, capi, captum. And I hope now that you see the importance of recognizing the third principal part. And I think this is going to be one of the most difficult challenges, because if you look up CEPIT in Latin in the back of the book, in the dictionary, you're not going to find it. Because the CEP portion of it is found under capio. And I think this is one of the most frustrating parts of this chapter for you guys, is being able to look up the words because you don't know what to look it up, because CEP is not in the dictionary. It's under capio. Do you see what I mean? So think about that. Go back and memorize your vocabulary. 8. Illa femina beata sola magnam cupiditatem pacis sensit. So what's the subject? Look at all these 4 words. Illa femina beata sola sensit. The woman. What kind of woman? That woman. That beautiful woman. That beautiful woman alone. Sensit. Felt. Has felt. Third person, singular, present perfect, active indicative. That woman has felt the great desire, the accusative singular feminine, and magna modifies it, of peace, genitive singular feminine. Of peace, we would say for peace. The Romans were very consistent in saying of peace because they didn't have a word for four. That's just what it is. A desire of peace, we have a desire for. That's just our idiom. We don't use the genitive when it comes to that. In this stage of the game, I'm quite happy to hear desire of peace, but understand it just means desire for peace. If you want to say the desire of peace to demonstrate you understand the genitive, more power to you. Happy to hear it. Happy to see it. But do get comfortable with saying desire for peace. Number 9. Potuistisne bonam vitam sine ulla libertate agere. Potuistisne, notice the ne, that's a question. And it is the posum, pose, potui. Have you been able? The second person plural. And the ne indicates a question. Have you been able to do? Agere, this is your complementary infinitive. The complementary infinitive, doesn't matter what tense it's complementing. Have you been able to do a good life? A life, accusative singular feminine. What kind of life? A good life without any freedom. And they say do a good life. We say live a good life. Have you been able to do a good life without any freedom? Live a good life. Just the idiom. The idiom. Why? I mean, the Romans would say, why would you say live a life? Why? I mean, that doesn't make sense to a Roman. Live a life. What else are you going to live? Why can't you say just do a good life? But that's how it is. So, the wonderful world of idioms. Number 10. Veritas igitur fuit populo, toti populo cara. This is a form of the verb to be. Truth was dear. This is your, that's not the subject, that's the adjective that modifies. Truth was dear. Truth, therefore, was dear, toti populo, for the whole, or to the whole people. Dative, singular, masculine. Toti modifies it, and toti, remember, it's one of those unus nauta words. And so the dative form is a little bit cockamamie. Therefore, truth was dear to the whole population, to the entire populace. That might be nice. 11. Niter medicus nomen patris audiverat. Now, I hope, all right, the doctor had heard. I hope that you will quickly learn this erat right there on the perfect stem, had. That's lock. Had heard. Had heard. And it is very, very consistent. So, third person, singular, pluperfect, active indicative. The doctor, nominative, singular masculine. Neither doctor had heard the name, accusative, singular neuter, genitive, singular feminine, masculine, of the father. Neither doctor had heard the name of the father. Number 12. That friendly queen did not remain there a long time. The queen remained, or did remain. And we're going to put the not in there, known. What kind of queen? The friendly queen. We don't, that friendly queen. Sorry, so we need a word for that and a word for friendly that modifies queen. Queen is nominative, singular, feminine. Did not remain there. This is just an adverb. A long time. This is also an adverb. It's just one word. Remain. Third person, singular. Let's use, because this is the chapter we're on, present perfect, active indicative. And what word are we going to choose? Maneo, manere, manui. No, maneo, manere, mansi. Sorry. So the queen, the Regina. What kind of queen? She is friendly. And we're going to say that. We're going to put that at the beginning. That friendly queen, known, remansit, ibi there, a long time. Diu. Illa regina amica non remansit ibi diu. I'd be tempted to move the ibi diu before the known, perhaps. I'm not going to quibble about this now. Our mothers had not understood the nature of that place. Mothers had understood nature of that place. Our mothers, mothers nominative, plural, feminine, had. Had is third person, singular, pluperfect, active, indicative. The nature, accusative, singular, feminine. So mothers, matres, what kind of mothers? Matres nostri. The nature, naturam, naturam, of that place, Ilius Loci, non intellexerunt. Non intellexerant, I said pluperfect, exerant. Matres nostra naturam Ilius Loci non intellexerant. Number 14. However, we have found no fault in the head of our country. We had found fault in, and then in the head of our country is going to be genitive, singular, feminine, ablative, singular, masculine, neuter, I believe, neuter, excuse me. We had found, first person, plural, pluperfect, active, indicative. We had found in Veneramus, we had found, autem, however, no fault, nullum culpam, in capite patriae, and you can leave patriae because you're only patriotic about your own country. You can't be patriotic about someone else's country. Therefore, patria means one's own country, but you can say in our country. If you're talking about that country, however, man, you should see the fault. So, in Veneramus autem nullam culpam in capite patriae nostrae. They kept sending. Notice they kept sending, not have or had, but the imperfect. They kept sending. This is a clear sign for the imperfect. Third person plural, imperfect. Active indicative. They kept sending what? Her to him. with me. Notice the series of prepositional phrases. This is actually not a prepositional phrase as much as it's the indirect object, and as such, dative, singular, masculine. Her, accusative, singular, feminine. With me, ablative, singular, masculine or feminine. The form is the same, it doesn't matter. They kept sending, let's put that at the end. Mit a bond. They kept sending her, eam, to him, ae, with me, mekum. I guess I didn't need that much room. I guess we can squeeze that in. Her to him, with me, they kept sending. That's all it is, isn't it? Fascinating. You don't need another word for kept because that's included in the sense of the imperfect. Sententiae antiquae. In principio Deus creavit caelum et terram, et Deus creavit hominem. So in principio, in the beginning, God created heaven and earth. Those are your accusatives. And God created man, the accusative. Very straightforward sentence if you ask me. If you struggle with it, by all means ask. But notice this is the third person singular present perfect active indicative. Number 2. In triumpho caeso praetulit hunc titulum veni vidi vici. In triumph, Caesar offered forth or bore or displayed or presented. Praetulit literally means to carry in front of you. So whatever you mean when you say carry in front of you, bore this sign, this title. I came, I saw, I conquered. Now this makes sense to you. Veni, it comes from venio, venire, veni, ventum. It's the third principal part here. Video, videre, vidi, visum, the third principal part here, and winco, vincere, wiki, weektum, third principal part here. Clever, isn't it? I came, I saw, I conquered. Number 3, weeksit, dum weeksit, bene. Weeksit comes from weewo, weewere, weeksy, weektum, wisum, if I'm not mistaken. Sorry. He lived, while he lived, well. After he lived, when he died, not so well. But that's what this means. He lived when he lived well. Number 4. Adolescens vult diu vivere, senex diu vixit. A young man wishes, or a youth wishes to live. This is your complementary infinitive. The youth wish to live for a long time. An old man has lived for a long time. Just a play on the present tense versus the perfect tense. The perfect has lived, the present perfect tense here. Number 5. Non ille diu vixit, but diu fuit. That man did not live, has not lived a long time, but he has lived, he has existed for a long time. Unsatisfied with this, frankly. He did not live, that man did not live for a long time, but he was present for a long time. I guess you might want to say that of a powerful person who lived, maybe like a Kennedy. He didn't live long, but his presence, he was present for a long time. I think that's the idea. Despite a short life, their existence was long. Hey, wee! You have spoken beautifully. This is your second person plural, singular, second person singular, present perfect, active indicative. You have spoken beautifully. All it is. Sophocles ad summum senectutem trigodius facit. Sophocles up to ad summum senectutum, up to the end, the depth, the height of old age, made tragedies, created tragedies, constructed tragedies. Sophocles lived till he was like 96, and that's what this means. To the very end, to the top of his old age, He wrote tragedies. Number 8. Illi non solum pecuniam sed etiam vitam pro patria pofuderunt. Notice we have this non solum pecuniam sed etiam vitam. We've talked about it before. Non solum sed etiam, not only but also. And in practice, the Romans would not break the structure of that. In other words, you can put these in parentheses, or I put them in brackets at this time, because they are standalone. They're not going to be mixing and matching, as I said earlier in this very chapter. Despite the fact that word order is not important, sometimes the organizations of words is incredibly consistent, and this non solum sed etiam is very consistent. The groupings are incredibly consistent. Not only money, but also life. So those guys, not only their money, well, that didn't tell you there, but that's who else's money is it? Their own life. Not only money, but life for the country poured forth. Profudere, offered, gave. So those guys not only offered, not only money, but their life for their country. Yes, I recognize for their country, because patria does mean one's own country. It has the sense. Again, as I said earlier, you can only be patriotic about your own country. You can't be patriotic about someone else's country. That's what a patriot means. If you're a patriot, that means it's love of one's own country, not just love of any country. So, pro patria, for their own country, it is acceptable to throw patria in there to their own country, because that's the entire sense of the word. And that's how we would speak. It's just natural for us to say that. And also in this sentence, I think it's not natural to include their own money and their own life. Whereas we would not, the Romans are like, whose did you think I meant? 9. Reges Romam a principio habuerunt, libertatem Lucius Brutus Romanis dedit. So we've got two completely separate sentences here. Don't get overwhelmed. Kings held Rome from the beginning. Kings held Rome from the beginning. Rome at the beginning, in its earliest days, was ruled by kings. Libertatem, this is the accusative. Lucius Brutus dedit Romanis, this is your indirect object. Lucius Brutus gave freedom to the Romans. So, yeah, that's the story. Rome was founded by kings and had 7 kings to begin with, and then the worst king, the proud king, Lucius Brutus, murdered and gave freedom to the Romans. And never again would the Romans live under the rule of a king. And that's why when it came to Caesar, he's going to be a king, he's going to be a king. There's a whole lot of ideas packed into this sentence. And if you know the idea behind it, sometimes in some way the grammar makes sense. Kings held Rome from the beginning. Lucius Brutus gave freedom to the Romans by getting rid of the kings, and they went to a consulship. And then, 500 years later, Caesar threatened to be a king again. Number 10. Sub Caesare autem libertatem perdimus. Under Caesar, however, we lost our freedom. See, exactly. These two sentences obviously go together. Perdimus, we have lost liberty. So, kings held Rome from the beginning. Lucius Brutus gave freedom to the Romans. But under Caesar, however, we lost our freedom. If you're thinking, wait a minute, I thought Brutus murdered Caesar, but there's this Brutus here. Yes, same name. There was a call to Brutus, who murdered Caesar, to hearken back. Live up to your family name, Brutus. Just like 500 years ago, Lucius Brutus killed the last of the Roman kings. Now, Brutus, it is up to you, under Caesar, to live up to your ancestral name of Brutus. So don't be confused in Roman history here. You didn't know you were going to get a lesson in Roman history. But yes, the Brutus that killed the last king of Rome was also a Brutus that killed Caesar, despite the fact there was a gap of 500 years. Number 11. Quando libertas caeceterit, nemo libere dicere audebit. 2 verbs. Caeceterit, audebit. Caeceterit, Liberty has fallen. Since liberty has fallen, nobody will dare, future tense, to speak, complementary infinitive, freely.